Muscles don't grow stronger during the workout. That happens during recovery. The stimulus happens under the bar. The adaptation happens in the hours and days afterward, when you are doing nothing that looks like training. The brain follows the same principle. Focused cognitive effort creates the stimulus. Downtime allows the nervous system to consolidate learning, restore attention, regulate emotion, and integrate information. Remove the recovery phase, and performance gradually deteriorates even if effort remains high. Yet most people treat downtime as optional, a luxury, a gap between the real work, something to fill with scrolling, podcasts, or whatever input is closest. The assumption is that rest is the absence of productivity. Neuroscience suggests the opposite. Rest is one half of the productivity cycle, and if you skip it, you are not working harder. You are working, to be blunt, dumber. Hey there, it's me, Core, and you're listening to Exercising Consistency, from fitness to flourishing. This is the first of 3 episodes on a topic that is systematically misunderstood, undervalued, and poorly executed. For the most part, people fall into one of 2 camps. Either they take no meaningful downtime at all, grinding until the prefrontal cortex gives out, or they take the wrong kind of downtime, scrolling through social media or consuming content, and wonder why they still feel drained. Neither camp understands what is actually happening inside the brain during rest. Neither camp has a system for recovery that matches the sophistication of their system for action. The result is a lopsided life. Intense focus followed by inadequate recovery. High output for a few weeks, then collapse. The pattern is familiar because it's everywhere. The aim here is for you to understand why your brain requires downtime, how to distinguish real rest from fake rest, and how to build a daily downtime protocol that makes your focused work more effective, not less. Here's how the 3 episodes are structured. Today, we cover the science, what actually happens inside your brain during downtime. In episode 2, we pivot to the distinction that changes everything, what counts as real downtime and what does not. We'll walk through the 3 types of downtime your brain actually requires, and by the end of that episode, you will know exactly what to stop calling rest. In episode 3, we build the system, a daily downtime protocol that is as intentional and structured as your training. We will cover the rules that make it work, the schedule template, and the weekly and monthly patterns that mirror periodized training. By the end of the series, you will have the same level of clarity about recovery that you have about action. The 2 systems together are what make consistency sustainable across a lifetime, not just weeks. The interval training analogy. I've spent a lot of time talking about the body as a model for how to run your life. The body is interdependent, it is consistent, it's brutally honest with its feedback, and it never mistakes intensity for productivity. The body does not grow stronger during the workout. The workout creates the demand for adaptation and growth. The recovery period repairs and builds the tissue stronger to better deal with the loads used. The adaptation happens during rest. If you remove the rest, you get a different kind of adaptation. You get injury, burnout, and regression. The brain operates on the same principle. The cycle is focus, then recovery, then adaptation, which leads to improved performance. Focused cognitive effort maxes out the prefrontal cortex. Attention is a finite resource. Decision-making, planning, impulse control, and emotional regulation all draw from the same processing budget. After prolonged use, the prefrontal cortex gets fatigued and becomes less efficient. Thinking slows. Distractibility increases. Judgment degrades. Emotional reactivity spikes. Then recovery resets the system. During genuine downtime, the brain shifts activity away from the executive networks and toward a collection of interconnected regions called the default mode network. The default mode network handles memory consolidation, emotional processing, creative recombination, and the integration of new information with existing knowledge. This is not passive time. It is active neural work happening below the surface of conscious awareness. Remove the recovery phase and the entire cycle breaks down. You keep applying stimulus, you keep demanding output, but the brain has no opportunity to consolidate, repair, or integrate. Performance declines even as effort remains high. This is the cognitive equivalent of overtraining, and the solution is the same as it is in the gym. Better recovery. What the brain does during downtime. When you stop directing your attention at a specific target, your brain does not go quiet. It shifts into a different mode of operation. The default mode network activates. This was one of neuroscience's most surprising discoveries. Researchers found that the brain remains highly active during rest, and that the activity follows organized, predictable patterns. The default mode network is involved in autobiographical memory, imagining future scenarios, integrating experiences, creative insight, understanding other people's perspectives, and constructing your sense of self. Many of the aha moments people experience do not arrive while they are actively trying to solve a problem. They arrive during a shower, a walk, or a drive, because the default mode network was connecting ideas that focused attention could not reach. The conscious mind was too busy to see the pattern. The default mode network, operating beneath awareness, found it. This is the incubation effect. When conscious attention moves elsewhere, non-conscious processing continues organizing information. Solutions that were inaccessible during deliberate effort surface seemingly on their own. The brain was not resting. It was working in a different way. Memory consolidation. When you learn something new, it is initially encoded in a fragile form. During periods of quiet wakefulness, and especially during sleep, the hippocampus replays patterns of neural activity, strengthening useful connections, and integrating new information with existing knowledge. The brain is asking, what is important, what can be discarded, and how does this fit with what I already know? This is one reason why taking a break after studying often improves later recall more than studying continuously. Attention restoration. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for planning, decision-making, and self-control, becomes less efficient after prolonged use. As cognitive fatigue accumulates, you observe slower thinking, increased distractibility, poorer judgment, greater emotional reactivity, and more impulsive decisions. Downtime allows these executive systems to recover. Recovery does not always require sleep. Walking, sitting quietly, or engaging in effortless activities can partially restore attentional capacity. Glymphatic clearance. During deep sleep, the brain activates what is essentially its cleaning system. Cerebrospinal fluid circulates more extensively through brain tissue, removing metabolic waste products that accumulate during wakefulness. Reduced sleep impairs this clearance process, which is one reason chronic sleep deprivation is associated with poorer cognitive performance and increased risk of neurodegenerative disease. Emotional regulation. Without sufficient recovery, the amygdala becomes more reactive, and the prefrontal cortex exerts less regulatory control. Small frustrations feel disproportionately large. Problems that seem overwhelming late at night often feel manageable after a good night's sleep because the brain has had time to recalibrate. Decision fatigue prevention. Every decision consumes cognitive resources. As the number of decisions accumulates throughout the day, people increasingly default to familiar habits, easier choices, immediate rewards, and avoidance. Periods of downtime reduce this cognitive load and help preserve executive function for decisions that truly matter. What happens without it? When downtime is absent, the cost is not subtle. It is measurable and predictable. Continuous input from notifications, tasks, and screens overloads the brain's processing networks. Overstimulation correlates with anxiety, attention deficits, and burnout. The brain never gets the opportunity to shift out of executive mode. The default mode network stays suppressed. The glymphatic system does not get the deep sleep it requires. The prefrontal cortex operates in a state of perpetual overwhelm. This is the state most people are in without realizing it. They're running a system that was never designed to run without recovery, and they keep applying more stimulus, more effort, more intensity, as if the problem were insufficient input rather than insufficient rest. The distinction that matters. In the next episode, we are going to pivot to the distinction that changes everything. Rest is not simply the absence of work. Some activities that feel effortless still place demands on attention. Scrolling social media keeps the brain in a state of continual engagement. Switching between apps does the same. The brain cannot activate the default mode network while processing new input. Even fun activities that involve screens or content consumption block the recovery process. We'll walk through the 3 types of downtime your brain actually requires: micro rest, deep rest, and creative drift. And we'll look at the specific activities that qualify and the specific activities that do not, so that by the end of that episode, you will know exactly what to stop calling rest. Recovery is not the opposite of productive work. It's the mechanism that makes consistent performance possible. We're starting to take recovery seriously when it comes to the body. Now, it's time we do the same for the brain. To emulate the body's system and become the person who follows through on their most important goals, join the ACT Score Challenge. That's it for today. Catch you next time.